I'm Dale Oracle. Today, we're continuing with the tarot and astrology. We're starting with Cancer. Cancer is pretty emotionally bound, right? The emotional, maybe a bit sensitive on the emotional side, but with a hard outer shell, sort of putting up to the world that they're, tough and things like that. But in the real world, they have that soft emotional side, very family oriented as well. Like sort of the luxury things. Doesn't everybody, right? But, a lot of insecurities with a Cancer. There's not a lot of just like Taurus features with a Cancer. There's going to be a lot of insecurities, a lot of emotional things with them. They're very emotional, they're very connected. And one thing I like to think about Cancers when the Cancers that I've known is they're very family oriented as well, but also they have that connection. So, and you can see this with that true love right here, right? We have the true love, the Two of Cups, and the true love is that emotional bond between two people. And one thing I think when I think of Cancers is a connection. They have an excellent connection or an excellent rapport with people. So once you're on sort of their trusted side and you get through that hard shell, they have that nice rapport and they're really a good friend. So Cancers are very, very unique and awesome individuals. So the Two of Cups, we see Venus within the sign of Cancer. Now remember, Saturn separates, Venus brings together, and we have that togetherness here with the True Love card. So Saturn is going to be again the separator. The Venus is going to be the connector, and we have that Venus influence within the sign of Saturn, within the sign of Cancer. So it's important to note that we have that love, we have that connection. Venus is the sort of the love planet, or the emotional planet, bonding planet. And we have that connection here, as you can see, with the true love. So not much to say about this particular card, but you can clearly see that Venus influence within the sign of Cancer. Again, when I think of Cancer, I think of that connection, the people making the connection. And we have that bringing together influence of Venus within that connection, making the connection stronger. So again, the true love, that connection has been made, and you see, he's reaching out. So again, making that connection in more than one way, right? So we have that deep emotional connection. So it's important to note that we have the Venus, but we have other signs, or have other planets in the future here. So let's move on to one of the next planets that we have. So still in Cancer, we have 5 cards today. Still in Cancer, we have abundance. So this is Mercury. Now you remember Mercury is the communicator. Mercury is the connector. And you'll see that influence inside of Cancer with the friends. So Cancer's emotional bonding with the family, right? That family structure that Cancer is well known for is also extended to sort of the extended family, right? With the friends. So this is what I think of when I think of the Three of Cups. Not only abundance, but that communication, that Mercury influence within Cancer, that communication is kicking in. And the communication is between friends. And you'll notice that all of them are reaching up and sort of crossing their arms together, and then they're holding each other as well. And you have that bonding again, not only with the family, but with the extended family, with the close friends. So Cancer is making that connection and making that love connection between friends, or that important connection that we have from Mercury. And Mercury being the communicator, Mercury bringing everyone sort of together and talking it out and things like that. We have a strong communication between people that we bond with. And the people that are part of our extended family are, of course, the people that we make memories with, right? You make emotional memories are the most powerful memories. We have emotional memories with friends, with families, with lovers. These are the memories that last us across our entire lives. And you have that feeling here with that connection, with the communication, and with the Mercury influence within Cancer, causing us to come together as friends, making a family as friends, and being able to communicate, celebrate, and have the abundance that we need within that communication. So not only just abundance of emotional security or abundance of emotion or drink or whatever, but that abundance of connection that we have with friends, close friends, people that we rely on, that we trust, and things like that. So that is our extended family. And the Three of Cups, where we have that communication within Cancer. And the next card we have for Cancer is the Moon. So I know, well, reading a passage from Linda Goodman's Sun Signs, by the way, the definitive work on sun sign, literally on sun signs. No matter how much money he piles up in reserve, Cancer really never feels secure. And no matter how much love he gets, he always needs more. So it's interesting, right? So it says his emotions never let him become sure enough to relax completely. And we have the Moon, the emotional center of our universe, yes? We have the Moon within Cancer, and I read that from Melinda Goodman's Sun Signs, by the way, most amazing book. So I read that because we have that emotion, right? We have that emotion. Maybe it's just not enough. Maybe that emotion is sort of hitting us, that insecurity is sort of sneaking in, and that happens a lot, right? If sometimes you have enough, you have plenty, and her passage really sort of wraps up or defines this particular card, in my opinion, because no matter how much he has, he never really feels secure. He never has enough to relax completely. So how does that factor in with the Four of Cups? Now, blended pleasure, I don't really like meld or really, sort of jive with that blended pleasure. I think, again, that the Linda Goodman's quote is the best because no matter how much you have, you never really have enough, right? We have that insecurity that's sort of built into the Cancer sign. And here, when we get the Moon and put the heavy, deep, emotional conflicts that sometimes come in with the Moon, then we have this sort of a feeling. So again, this is interesting. It's easy to remember these cards as well, right? You remember we got Venus, we got Mercury, and now we have the Moon. Now we have that emotional security sort of sneaking in. So I think it's important to sort of point that out, that this really sort of jives with that and gets that insecurity that sometimes that the Cancer has and really highlights it with the light of the Moon, in my opinion. So not really blended pleasure, in my opinion. Again, I think it's just not enough, or that emotional insecurity that sometimes Cancer has is really coming out here in this particular card. And I think this is a beautiful representation of the Moon within Cancer, sort of that negative, obviously, spin on it, but still an interesting card. So there we have the Moon within Cancer. And now we have the Queen of Cups. Now, again, before I start, no books, no sites all agree on which court cards go with which sign. So I think the last time that we did court cards and signs, it really sort of pointed out some of the aspects of that sign. But in this particular case, maybe not. We have that, the Queen of Cups, obviously we have the water feature here, sort of the pooling water. And then we have a very decorative cup. And this sort of points to the blending of sort of the female nature or sort of the female aspects of Cancer within here. So we have, Gaia, the Mother Earth over here, Mother Healer, Avenger, I'm not really sure. But I think within this card, we really sort of have that mix of Cancer. We have the Throne, sort of that safety, that home type feel that Cancers love, that sort of possession of love, the possession of emotions and things like that, represented by the decorative cup. And then we have the want or the need for more, or maybe that emotional tide, sort of that beach type feeling that we have here as well. So we have this mix of all the Cancer traits sort of going back here or going back to this card. And I think it's interesting that we have the female nature of Cancer coming out within this card with so many different aspects from within. So this is a representation of Cancer, supposedly Gaia, Mother Earth, but in my opinion, I think this is sort of a nice mix of all the different aspects that Cancer points to. So this is the Queen of Cups. And here we have the male representation of Cancer, the Green Man. That's a bit much. Counselor, Father, Protector. So this is sort of the male nature, the male influence that we have of Cancer, and that's represented by the King of Cups. Now, sort of that male aspect of some stoicness that we have with some of the male Cancer. One of the traits for the male Cancer is, the emotions are not exactly worn on the sleeve. And that goes back to Cancer's, some of Cancer's hard shell within that, that emotional pool within, or they may be a little bit of the emotional insecurities, but with a hard shell over it. In other words, we have that stoic look, a very serious look. He's not exactly going to engage us in conversation and things like that. And then we have him holding two different objects, which is one of the few kings that's holding two different objects. And that sort of goes to the doesn't really want to lose anything. I know that applies to all of this, but it's sort of the Cancer male aspect of doesn't want to lose things or wants to hang on to things or doesn't want to part with much. So that can sometimes lead to sort of collecting a bunch of things you don't need and stuff like that. But that comes back to the male aspect of that possessiveness, right? And that security that the male aspect needs too, because you have this high back sort of throne chair, but within the water all around. So he has that security within sort of this insecure flux of water and waves and things like that. And obviously the throne is not moving around like it's in the waves. It looks like it's sturdy, but just has water running around it. So again, it's one of the interesting things about that we have that stoicness, that hard shell that we have for the crab, the Cancer, but we have that emotional bond, and we have that fish as well. But we have that emotional bond as well. So he's separated a bit from the whale or dolphin or whatever that is, and the ship and things like that. So he has this separation, that emotional separation that many male Cancers need. And yet he still has that reliable, that family man type feel as well. But again, stoic nature, a separatedness from a lot of things, and a need for that security, a need for that throne with that hardened security, and the not really wanting to part with much. So we have this combination of differences within this card that I think are important for the King of Cups and our last Cancer card. And speaking of making that connection, I have people supporting me on Patreon, which is so awesome. Help pay the bills for the software, etc., etc. So it's basically a way to give me a couple of bucks for making tutorials and doing free readings and things like that. If you'd like to give back, I would greatly appreciate it. Link in the description. My current Patreon supporters are Daily Empress, Adam G, Alley Cat, Annie Lamaster, Carmen Garbariano, Carolyn Bouchard, Crystal McGinn, Fatima, Gary Fink, Hot Chocolate, Jessica Mante, Kim Wilson, KSW, La Ami, Richard Zeh, Scott Miller, Shintaro Kuga, Sinai Zamora, and Trina Iraverio. Thank you so much for being my supporters, and as always, please hit like and subscribe. See you in the next lesson.